Have you ever wondered why the flamethrower from Alien looks like it escaped from a military surplus store, having a fever dream? Half Vietnam-era weapon, half space-age prop, and half something NASA would deny ever designing. Well, buckle up, because this wasn't just some Hollywood fake cobbled together from spare parts. It was actually a fully functional military-grade flamethrower that could melt through steel plating. People assume it was movie magic and rubber tubing. Wrong. Dead wrong. This beast was built to incinerate xenomorphs for real, and trust me, number one will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about movie weapons. So hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new. But before we start, let me know if you've ever suspected movie props were deadlier than they appeared. Number 14. Built from a real M2A1-7 military flamethrower. The prop department didn't just create this from scratch. They modified an actual Vietnam War-era flamethrower for the film. The M2A17 was designed to clear bunkers and tunnels in combat, making it perfectly suited for the narrow corridors of a spaceship. Ridley Scott was absolutely insistent on authenticity, demanding real military hardware even for weapons that would barely get screen time. The military surplus dealer who provided the equipment actually thought they were selling to a war movie production, not a science fiction film. When they discovered their hardware would be fighting aliens instead of enemy soldiers, they were reportedly both confused and intrigued by the unusual application of their deadly merchandise. Number 13. Weighed 72 pounds when fully loaded with fuel. Sigourney Weaver had to train for weeks just to carry this monstrous weapon without toppling over. The fuel tank alone held 4 gallons of flammable liquid, enough to completely torch an entire movie set in minutes. The production required stunt doubles for any scene that involved running with the flamethrower, because the risk of accidents was simply too high. The weight distribution was so awkward and unbalanced that special harnesses had to be designed just to make it manageable for filming. Weaver later described it as like carrying a small refrigerator on your back while trying to act terrified. The physical toll was so extreme that separate training sessions were scheduled just for flamethrower handling. Number 12. Could shoot flames 150 feet in perfect conditions. While the range was deliberately reduced for filming safety, the underlying capability remained intact. Early test fires conducted in the studio parking lot actually melted the asphalt underneath, creating a hazardous situation before filming had even begun. Insurance companies nearly pulled their coverage of the production when they learned the true specifications of this weapon. What most viewers don't realize is that the flame pattern could be adjusted from a narrow precision jet to a wide spray depending on the tactical situation. For filming, they primarily used the narrow setting, but the wide spray capability meant the entire set could have been engulfed in seconds if something went wrong. Number 11. Required a full-time weapons specialist on set. British firearms expert Nick Jeffries was hired specifically to manage the flamethrower scenes. His sole responsibility was ensuring the weapon didn't destroy the set or injure the cast. Every actor who came within proximity of the flamethrower had to complete extensive safety training before filming could proceed. Fire marshals were present during every single take involving the weapon, standing just off camera with emergency equipment at the ready. The specialist carried a CO2 extinguisher at all times during filming and had the authority to shut down production immediately if safety protocols were violated. This level of precaution was virtually unprecedented for a science fiction film of that era. Number 10. The fuel was real and absolutely terrifying. Contrary to what most people assumed, they used actual napalm-based fuel rather than safer Hollywood alternatives. This wasn't colored water or diluted accelerant. It was military-grade incendiary material. The fuel could continue burning for over 10 seconds after being ignited, creating persistent fire hazards throughout the set. Cleanup after flamethrower scenes required hazmat protocols and specialized disposal methods that added significant costs to the production. One accidental spill during rehearsal nearly shut down production for 3 days, as specialized cleaning crews had to be brought in. The distinctive blue-orange flame pattern seen in the film is the result of using genuine military fuel rather than theatrical pyrotechnics. Number 9. It actually melted through the Nostromo set walls. During the famous corridor scene, the flames burned straight through the plywood backdrop, creating an actual emergency on set. The production had to rebuild entire sections of the spaceship interior multiple times throughout filming. What's fascinating is that Ridley Scott actually loved the authentic damage and kept much of it in the final cut. The scorch marks you see on the walls in many scenes aren't painted or added in post-production. They're 100% real battle damage from previous takes. Set designers eventually began reinforcing walls with fire-resistant materials, but this substantially increased the production budget beyond initial estimates. Number 8. Sigourney Weaver nearly quit because of it. After witnessing the flamethrower's destructive power during early tests, Weaver was legitimately terrified of handling the weapon. The extreme weight caused back problems that persisted for months after filming concluded. Her insurance rider specifically excluded flamethrower-related injuries, forcing the production to obtain separate coverage just for these scenes. She ultimately demanded a stunt double for the final alien confrontation scene, though close-up shots still required her to handle the ignition system. In later interviews, Weaver admitted the physical and psychological stress of working with the weapon nearly caused her to abandon the project entirely. Number 7. The ignition system was military-grade and temperamental. The piezoelectric igniter could fail without warning, potentially leaving actors holding what amounted to an unignited fuel bomb. After multiple misfires during rehearsals, backup ignition systems were hastily installed to prevent catastrophic accidents. The igniter made a distinctive clicking sound that sound designers incorporated into the film's audio landscape. That threatening click you hear before the flames erupt is the actual weapon preparing to fire. The cold British weather made the ignition system even more unreliable, requiring heating elements to be installed overnight to keep the mechanism functional for morning shoots. Number 6. It consumed the entire special effects budget for fire scenes. The flamethrower effects cost more than the alien costume itself, which is remarkable considering the iconic nature of H.R. Giger's creation. Fuel costs alone exceeded $15,000 for the entire production, an enormous sum for a 1979 film. Safety equipment and additional insurance required for flamethrower skins added another $15,000 for the entire production, an enormous sum for a 1979 film. Safety equipment and additional insurance required for flamethrower scenes added another $15,000 for the entire production, an enormous sum for a 1979 film. Safety equipment and additional insurance required for flamethrower scenes added another $25,000 to the already strained budget. Scott ultimately had to cut other practical effects sequences entirely to afford the flamethrower shots he deemed essential to the story. The production accountants reportedly created a separate category just for flamethrower-related expenses, as they became so substantial during filming. Number 5. The backpack fuel system was a genuine fire hazard. The fuel lines could rupture under pressure, potentially creating an instant inferno that would engulf the wearer. Multiple backup safety valves were installed after a near disaster during testing when a line began to leak during ignition. The fuel gauge was notoriously inaccurate, leading to unexpected flameouts during critical takes. Crew members established an unofficial safety protocol, refusing to stand within 50 feet during active flamethrower scenes, regardless of what the official safety guidelines specified. Technicians performed pressure tests before each shooting day, but the aging military hardware remained unpredictable throughout production. Number 4. It was banned from most British film studios. After viewing test footage, Pinewood Studios flatly refused to allow the weapon on their property, forcing location changes. The production had to build custom fireproof sets, specifically to accommodate scenes featuring the flamethrower. Fire department regulations required temporary sprinkler systems to be installed in every room where the weapon would be fired. 3 different studios canceled booking agreements when they learned about the flamethrower, forcing last-minute schedule changes and increasing production costs. The weapon eventually gained a reputation among British film facilities as the prop that gets you blacklisted. Number 3. The weapon inspired real military interest. Defense contractors actually visited the set to study the modifications made for filming, particularly the lightweight trigger mechanism developed for Weaver. The British Ministry of Defense requested technical specifications of the modified weapon, interested in its potential for urban combat applications. Several military advisors who consulted on the film praised the weapon's effectiveness against confined targets, a disturbing euphemism for enemies in enclosed spaces. Perhaps most surprisingly, the flamethrower's performance data was classified for 2 years after filming concluded, preventing the production team from discussing certain technical aspects in interviews. Number 2. Only one flamethrower survived the production. 2 backup units were destroyed during filming accidents, one from an internal pressure failure and another from a dropped fuel tank. The single surviving weapon was decommissioned after production wrapped and sold to a private collector who specialized in military memorabilia. This unique piece of film history occasionally appears at sci-fi conventions, though it's no longer functional, having been permanently disabled for safety reasons. The collector reportedly paid $45,000 for what was essentially a movie prop with a documented history of nearly destroying film studios, an astronomical sum for the late 1970s. Number 1. It was designed to actually kill the alien costume. Ridley Scott's original, almost unbelievable plan was to literally burn the alien suit during filming for the ultimate in cinematic realism. The flamethrower was specifically calibrated to destroy the $100,000 HR, Giger creation in a single devastating shot that would serve as the film's climax. Only last-minute intervention by the costume department saved the iconic design from being sacrificed for a single scene. The final confrontation was completely rewritten because test shots proved the weapon was too effective. It wouldn't just damage the suit, it would completely incinerate it beyond recognition. This wasn't movie magic creating the illusion of danger. It was movie magic creating the illusion of safety for a weapon that could have easily killed everyone on set. And there you have it. 14 weird, wild, and downright terrifying facts about one of the most dangerous movie props ever built. The alien flamethrower wasn't just a piece of Hollywood trickery. It was a genuine weapon of war disguised as a sci-fi prop, and it nearly burned down British cinema in the process. So now I want to hear from you. Which fact shocked you the most? Which part made you rethink movie magic forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this deep dive into practical effects madness, and make sure to subscribe for more insane behind-the-scenes stories that prove reality is sometimes more terrifying than fiction.